Greetings, YouTube. I have spent a couple days trying to decide how exactly I want to make this video. Because I know I'm going to touch on a subject that a lot of people don't like to talk about. Maybe it's because it's controversial, maybe because it's ugly, but I have learned a ton in the past week about what I am calling the dark side of MCFC. Now, don't get me wrong. This has been around for maybe as long as the game has been around. This is not new. However, I do think, given the fact that 2019 is the first year that the gifting badge was taken away from players, there is a different dynamic to this dark side than we've seen in previous years, where you could gift anyone pretty much anything you wanted in terms of the items that are available any day of the year, not just during the gifting event. But you see now, it's time to talk about really how when the gifting badge comes back in December, it promotes and kind of exposes the cheating that goes on throughout the year to prepare for December. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, I'm going to do my best to spell that out in the time allotted in this video. I want to start off by saying that when Kabam brought in the Alliance Gifting Rank Rewards #1 spot, the inclusion of by far the most expensive, valuable, sought-after item for the top alliances who are in the Prestige Wars, with 50% of a Tier 5 class catalyst selector, they brought the old mantra in American baseball to mind. Since the 1800s, that old mantra is, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So this simple phrase basically communicates to the people at the top, if you didn't plan on cheating, just know there are people who definitely are and probably either won't get caught or won't get punished. So, how exactly could the dark side of MCFC influence how alliances are cheating to get the top spot in the gifting event? This is actually going to tie in to a video I released this week about cheaters in the arena, which is something I've learned a lot more about in the past week as well. We are going to go back to the rank rewards that I discussed in the 4-star basic arena from the past week. You see, in the past week, Invisible Woman was the 4-star basic champion. Now, I am truly a believer that the people at the top with these Cyclops accounts don't care at all about Invisible Woman. They did not do this arena to get Invisible Woman. In fact, if they had it their way, they would never place in this arena, and they would hide in the shadows of the dark web of MCOC. It's just that when you run a program every second of a day for 3 days straight and allow yourself to mod the game to where, because people will say, it's a bot. No, it's a mod. And I tell my students two things can be true at the same time. You can run a program that allows you to run a arena round every single second of the day and mod the game to where you're taking 2- and 3-star champs against rank 5 4-star champs, since we know in the 4-star basic arena you are not allowed to bring in 5 stars or certainly 6 stars, so the highest champions you'll face in a fight are probably going to be rank 5 4 stars, probably at their peak, especially if you're fighting against a arena team that has suicide masteries on. Their PI will peak at like between 7,000 and 8,000 a piece. But regardless, if you mod the game, it kind of reminds me of when I used to play way back in the day on the Nintendo GameCube. Super Smash Brothers, like the second version of this, even, I guess, Nintendo 64 and then GameCube. Because you could put the damage up to like 200 or 300% to where you could just tap the opponent and they would instantly fly off the screen and die. That's how these programs run in some cases, where they will turn up the damage artificially via like a computer so much that you knock out the opponent the minute the fight starts. The opponent either has like no health, or I guess the easier way to describe it is each one of your hits does like 1,000,000 damage, even if it's just a light attack. And so the opponents you're facing in the arena don't have 1,000,000 health, and so they just lose. And so that allows you to complete arena matches super fast. And of course, if you're running a program that doesn't rely on a human to do it, you're also putting yourself in a position where you can run it even when human beings are supposed to sleep. This, of course, is a huge advantage in every possible way, but what it also does is it allows the cheaters to take spots away from the people who are fighting fairly. And I have seen several horror stories of people that commented on my past video who said, "Prof, I have been within 10 spots of the 5-star featured champion that I grinded 3 days for a number of times this year, and I'm very upset with these cheaters because, quite simply put, they have taken away my chance to get the champion fairly." And I totally get that perspective, and it makes me angry for you, and that's part of why I'm doing this video. So let's carry this out over the course of January to December, December being relevant because that's when the temporary gifting badge comes back. If you don't get caught, or Kabam suspends your account but maybe doesn't take away all your units, you could, even if you're just doing this for a couple of months out of the year, I'm not saying you have to do it, I don't know, for 11 months, you could have hundreds of thousands of units easily, if not millions, in your inventory stash. These are units that you did not pay for, right? They're units you grinded for with X amount of battle chips, which you're going to just have pouring in from all these arena fights that your account is doing automatically, not to mention the extra units you get from the rewards, the milestone rewards in the arenas that you are running. And it seems like the 4-star basic one is a very popular one because not only is there less suspicion, it seems, in these leaderboards than like the 4 and especially the 5-star featured, because I think Kabam's making their money mostly on that 5-star featured from refreshes and people who are now spending over 90 million arena points in a lot of cases to get the new 5-star featured champion. So the 4-star basic is kind of ignored. But let's be honest. I mean, I can go through it again, but I don't think it would serve this video well. If you look up these accounts, they're like level 29. They have their top champion as a 5-star at like 3,000 PI, which is irrelevant to the 4-star basic arena because you can't bring them in because they're a 5-star. So they are modding the game. And a few people who were brave enough actually messaged some of these people and were like, "Hey, you look like a cheater." And one of them was dumb enough to respond in the chat, "I am, so what?" These people are not trying to hide. When you have a name like Cyclops 30 or Cyclops 36, you are not hiding. You are sitting here in plain sight, and you can just keep scrolling down, and you can see all of these bots' accounts. My biggest solution to start with this would be to have somebody at Kabam. It would take one person. Go through the arena at the end of the 3-day cycle and simply investigate each one of these accounts by just searching for their name. They're relying on algorithms and they're relying on like the software to detect things, and I don't think, to be honest, it's very good. Because I have heard stories from people who say, "Prof, I just want you to know, I bot because Kabam doesn't punish me. Or when they do, they only punish like 1 or 2 of the accounts that I do it. So because they aren't enforcing rules, I'm actually going to keep doing." And make no mistake about it, all these Cyclops accounts might be run by one person. We're not talking about like some guy in his basement botting one account on a cell phone. We're talking about a business here where somebody might be running 500 accounts plus at once. So you add up all the units on all these accounts, and maybe they assume that out of the 500 accounts that they run, I don't know, let's just say for the sake of argument, half of them get banned. Well, that's still 250 accounts that when December rolls around, they have millions of units at their disposal. So what do these people do with the millions of units that they get from illegally running the arena and modding the game? Well, they'll reach out to these top alliances and they'll say, hey, I have 1,000,000+ units. I would like to join your alliance and gift your alliance Odin's worth of items and probably greater gifting crystals being the top for, let's say, half price. So you send me $50 cash and I'll send you $100 worth of items. That's a win-win for everybody. That's a huge money-making opportunity for the person that's been running these bots all year. And if you do the math and enough people pay, this could be literally hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of a business for this person, which, if Kabam's not going to do anything about it, they have no incentive to not be this genius entrepreneur who's cheating their way to a salary that I'll never see in my life, regardless of whether or not I end up getting tenure by a university. But not just that. The Alliance is getting, say, greater gifting crystals at half the cost as everybody else, and also not paying tax. So they're getting twice as many greater gifting crystals per Odin, which means twice as many chances to get 6-star shards, 5-star shards, 5-star class-based awakening gems, etc. But what really blows my mind, and what I guess I just didn't think about enough because I'm naive and I just don't think about these things because I not only don't cheat, but like this is a hobby of mine. I don't spend all day thinking about the inner workings of MCFC. Kabam has done such a terrible job of having similar requirements of the gifting event to, say, like even Alliance War participation, that you can bring in like all these Cyclops accounts. And you can have all these level 29 accounts join the top alliances. They can gift and buy these discounted units worth of gifts, add to their gifting total, and then boot them and bring in the next bot. And their score stays with the alliance. That freaking blows my mind. I think the very simple solution that everybody at the top could probably agree with if they cared about fairness, and Lord knows they probably don't, is that if somebody comes into the alliance and they actually leave the alliance, the points that they donated to the alliance leave with them. That's just common sense. And if they wanted to actually contribute their points to the alliance, they had to stay with the alliance for the duration of the event. Now, you're going to say, well, what about people that get kicked? Or what about people that come back? Well, you could make a rule that, and Kabam would have to do a little bit of work on their end, but I'm sure they could figure it out given the things they've already figured out to screw over some players. Let's say that you kick somebody and then they come back into the alliance at the end of the event. Well, then their points are reinstated for what they donated. But the biggest issue is that you can bring in literally hundreds of small accounts that have cheated throughout the year in the arena and get these discounted units and raise your score, and everybody who's doing this legally is screwed over. It is the true dark side of MCOC coming together in December, because this is the first time that these bots have the opportunity to gift alliances discounted units, because the gifting badge for the first time in 2019 was taken away until the last 3 weeks of December. I think the solution to this is pretty obvious. I don't think it's super complicated. And I'm not blaming, believe it or not, the person who runs these Cyclops accounts. I'm not blaming them for doing this business strategy. I think it's genius. I'm blaming Kabam for saying that this is cheating. And like any idiot can go through this leaderboard and see that somebody is cheating. And then you can search the accounts and you can also see they're all just mysteriously online at the same time. I wonder why that is. Probably because they're all running the bot at the same time. And all it would take is somebody at Kabam to just ban them. And by the way, ban them permanently. Make them automatically have their account disabled. None of this like 1 month suspension BS. Because I had somebody who said, Prof, you won't believe it. I cheated because I hate this game so much, because I've been screwed over so much with crystals that I finally said I'm going to get back at Kabam. I'm going to leave this game, but before I do, I am going to create an account and run a mod. And they, in 1 week, went from level 1 to like level, I think it was 29. So you don't do enough fights to get crazy experience. But they went from all the way through the game, including a Labyrinth of Legends run. That's why you see people who are like at level 42 with the best champion being the champion you get for 100% completing Labyrinth of Legends, because they were able to do that without needing to be at a certain level and beyond. And Kabam eventually caught them, did not permanently suspend their account. When they came back, a lot of their units were still there, and most importantly, their best champions were still there. So even when they got punished, they didn't lose all of the progression that made their account so OP in a week. I believe, and this is probably the most controversial part of this video, I believe there are people in Kabam who know that this is going on. They can't be this stupid. I mean, I'm sitting here knowing almost nothing about bots and mods and just scrolling through a leaderboard, and it's so obvious that these Cyclops accounts are run by the same person who's doing their best to make thousands and millions of units to sell top alliances, and these accounts still exist. I believe Kabam knows, and they're willing to look the other way because they make so much freaking money during the month of December in the gifting event. Their income, their revenue is so high that they have so much incentive to just ignore it. And maybe when January rolls around and the gifting event is over, we're magically going to see a ban wave of all of these Cyclops accounts, and you'll never hear from them again. And then on top of that, when this video gets out, they're going to be like, oh man, you should change the names to all these accounts. And maybe not make them so similar, maybe at least try to seem like you're cheating. Maybe have real names. But regardless, Kabam, by not doing their job and permanently banning cheaters every week, and I really do think if you just scroll through the leaderboards, because if you run bots, especially in the 4-star basic arena, it's going to be impossible to not show up in this leaderboard. Your score is just going to be too high. Like I said, I don't think they want to have me be able to show their names publicly in this video. They just can't help it, because when you run a bot this effectively for 3 straight days, you're going to play in terms of the top leaderboard placement. And maybe that's going to cause these bots to get smarter and to only run 1 or 2 days to where they don't show up. But either way, the system is still going to be able to be in a position where they should be caught and they should be permanently banned. All I know is that we've got some solutions on our hands. The best solution for the arena is to have Kabam weekly check the leaderboards, search the profiles, anything that's obviously suspicious, and it is very obvious. Just permanently ban, no questions asked. They have the right to do that. They have the legal right to do that. And really, my dream scenario for this would be to scroll through, and especially for like the 5-star featured arena, but everybody who is in places like 151 through 170, if you boot 20 cheaters, you just contact those 20 people and be like, hey, you now got the champion. You placed. Because we know in a dream world, the arena, you would be able to aim for a score, and once you got that score, you would just get the champion. But they're making a lot more money having it be the top placement and not a specific score, which is why people get screwed over. You can have somebody like Legacy who didn't cheat for 3 days and stayed up all night and missed it by 1 spot. The final thing I want to say as a repeat of the strategy, which I think is very, very obvious, and even people like my good friend Pep agree 100% to the point that I think multiple people have emailed Kabam the suggestion. Of course, you just get the classic, well, thank you for your time, just the classic template that they send back in a help email. But if these accounts still exist in December of 2020, which I can all but guarantee you that they will, because Kabam's done nothing about it for years, and they're incentivized to not do anything about it. You cannot have an alliance that brings in so many accounts, kicks people, and keeps their alliance rank reward score for those accounts. You have to have, whenever you kick somebody, their score leaves with the alliance. And oh, by the way, they can't carry that score to a new alliance. It resets to 0 unless they join that alliance back at the end. But then, of course, if they rejoin that alliance, they're going to have to kick somebody else. In a perfect world, you would just say, hey, Every alliance has to know when the gifting event starts, your alliance is frozen for participation. If you kick people and you bring somebody in, too bad. The only scores that are going to count are the people who are left in the alliance that were there when the event started. But I get there are going to be a lot of understandable complaints about certain situations where people need to kick somebody and don't want to be screwed over. So because of that, just know that the only scores that count are the ones where the people are actually in the alliance at the end of the event. And will that mean that there's going to be an alliance with one real person and 29 bots, and that person just screwed over the entire alliance? Yes, because I know for a fact, excuse my language, but those assholes exist. But at least it's way more fair than the current system, which has people just come in, dump all of these millions of units worth of items, and then leave and bring in the next person and just have a revolving door. And do I blame these alliances for doing this because it's legal? Not really. I mean, honestly, it's kind of a genius thing to do because Kabam has turned their eye to it. They know what's going on, but they're just making so much money. The dark side of MCOC is real, and it has showed its ugly head like never before, thanks to the temptation of owning the top prestige with this Tier 5 class catalyst half selector that will be rewarded to somebody in a matter of days. We have solutions. They're simple solutions for 2020. Now it's up to Kabam to actually implement it, or they can continue to lie to the community, say they're doing something when we all know that's a bunch of BS because they're literally incentivized with their pocketbook to look the other way.